February 25th. Decatur Makers Open Build Live Stream! Da, 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 da. Oh good, the colors changed, right? Okay, warm welcome makers. Tonight we're interviewing one of our Decatur Makers members who's got a pretty cool project. Can you tell us who you are and how you got to Decatur Makers?
Hi, my name is Andy Zamon. Everybody calls me Andy. At Z3D Forge on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I got a project here. I've been learning how to use the Glowforge at Decatur Makers, and my second project was this cool little treasure box, little treasure chest I made out of an 1/8 inch piece of plywood, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I kind of found Decatur Makers completely by accident. I moved down to Atlanta about 3 years ago. I was in a little odd transition in careers, and I decided instead of trying to get a job for a paycheck, I was going to do something I liked, so I wanted to get into 3D printing. So I don't know whether it was a weird search algorithm thing or something, but I kept seeing Decatur Makers, and I was sitting in church over at St. Thomas More before Mass one day, and I was talking with my daughters, and the gentleman behind me leaned over. Leaned over and it's like, hey, you should go to Family Build Night at Decatur Makers. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's just across the street. Check it out. So I think the very first time I found them was through somebody word of mouth on Family Build Night, and I came in and I saw it, and then I started lurking around, and I saw that they also had a Lilsbot Mini, so I was like, oh, maybe I can feel comfortable here, you know, because I know a little something. And then I quickly realized how awesome this community is and what a great place it is to come and start a project, and you just meet so many different people with so many skills. It started the ball rolling for everything I wanted to make.
It's like, it makes me think of churches with the original algorithms.
Yeah.
for finding new things. You know?
Yeah, right.
So what'd you bring tonight to talk to us about?
So
what's your project?
I made a little treasure box. I saw some really cool things done in the space, people with living hinges. The first project I did was like a book to hold gift cards for my daughter's teachers. I was low on funds, I had extra wood, so I made a Harry Potter themed book. It's called Care of Magical Creatures, because they watch our magical creatures every day. It's for my daughter's 4th grade teachers.
You made a book out of wood?
Yeah, so it's folded in half and had some Harry Potter things on it. But I downloaded the blank, and then I put some art and stuff on it. But I really wanted to make something myself from scratch. I tend to do that with things because it teaches me whatever software I need to learn. It teaches me what materials I can use, and I make tons of mistakes, but I learn from those. Like this didn't come out right the first time I cut it. There were some.
What? Were you thinking of treasure?
Yeah, I was thinking of treasure. I was like, you know what? I saw how it would curve and sit, and I was like, oh, that would make a perfect little treasure chest. It's a great little gift box, things you can give people. You can further embellish the sides with engravings or put pictures. And I was like, how am I going to get it to lock? And there were some fancy, like, print and assemble sliding locks, but I went with just your basic old school, like, treasure chest key. And the first key I had didn't have teeth on either side, and the problem was when you would put it in and turn, well, the first one wouldn't turn because I cut the hole the same width as the key. And of course, you know, when you start rotating cubes, like there's the diagonal to hypotenuse, it's wider on the diagonal than it is on the sides.
So when you rotated
it wouldn't rotate, it would break off. So it also wouldn't hold the two pieces together. So right now, this holds the hinge together.
Yeah, so it's like the key works like a latch. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I printed some out. I was really excited that they worked, and then I figured out ways to improve it a little bit, and it took me only 2 revisions to get it to work the way I wanted, and I was super happy with it.
When you sat down and you said, I'm going to make a box, what did you use? Use paper and pencil? You open your computer?
So the first thing I did is I made like a dice tray, and I used Fusion 360 because of all the 3D stuff I was doing. So it's computer-aided design program. So it's really great for when you want to make really accurate, geometric, kind of mechanical-like drawings. It has a sculpting
to a machine or computer.
It has a sculpting tool, but it's really not that great. If you want to do that, you'll use something like Sculptress or Blender, and and I haven't quite gotten there yet.
So Fusion's your go-to? You popped over
Yeah.
Fusion?
So I popped it open, and the reason I did that is because I knew, I kind of had in my head how it would assemble, because I've seen these dovetail hinges before. So I just went in and I drew a bunch of rectangles with, you know, rounded shapes on them, and I laid them out like I'd want the piece to go together.
Right.
And then the tricky part was trying to wrap my head around how to make these joints and how to make it mesh together, like, you know, teeth. I guess it's dovetail in carpentry. I'm not a big woodhead.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so
it's almost like minimizing a larger...
So it's funny, I started with a 3D design problem. I couldn't figure it out in there, so I went to cardboard. And I just cut the shapes out of like old cereal boxes and Amazon boxes we had laying around. And I put them together, and then I started taking measurements and trying to figure out how they'd work. And the trickiest part about this is when you have 2 or 3 places come together. It's like there's a half width, there's a quarter, a third, and so when everything goes in place, it fits nice and flush, and I could click on it and it would export the SVG, the vector file, and then I could open that into Inkscape, and that's where I had to design the living hinge.
Oh, so you had to use a couple different programs.
Yeah, so I mean, you can do this in Fusion, but I wasn't familiar. In fact, today before I came in,
this is kind of the shiny, cool part.
Yeah, this is like the coolest thing about the Glowforge.
This was a solid piece of wood like this, and then you made these little cuts and it created...
Yeah, it's really pretty amazing. I'm going to get real close so you can kind of see how it moves. But it's a living hinge. It's just little cuts inside here, and you can change the pattern. I've seen a lot of really cool ones. Some that look more like diamonds or like claws, like chicken feet almost, and it looks really cool. But I went, exactly. I went with just the basic lines, and there was a lot of math going. Okay, I have 4 inches. I know I want an 1/8 inch gap between each line. And the short line has to start here, and then, you know, so it was a lot of using my dry erase board at home, which is next to my computer, which is another great thing to like draw stuff out, do quick math, and yeah, it's just, I have a really messy but really...
when you started working on it, so you got what the product...
Probably about, well, if you don't count the cardboarding, which I would, probably about 3 hours. Because I had to measure it, figure it out, but then getting it back into Fusion was real easy once that came, and figuring out how all the things went. Now, getting the living hinge correct was a little harder to do in Inkscape. Inkscape is an open source vector program. I think if you're familiar with Adobe Illustrator, it's like the open source version of that. So figuring that out and how to draw the lines was rough, but once I got one row, so it's like there's four short lines and then like 3 long lines. After I get the 4 and the 3, I can just copy and move down 1/4 inch and keep moving it down over and over and over again until I get it to the place I want. So yeah, I mean
so this all cuts out the laser cut. You put one piece of 4.
Yeah, so it's just it's a piece of 1/8 inch plywood that I got from Joann's or any kind of craft center, and I put it into the Glowforge, and the Glowforge has a really basic, easy to use interface. So I import the vector files in there, and once everything's lined up, because what's cool about the Glowforge is it has a camera, so it takes a picture of the bed it's going to cut. You put your piece of wood in there, you go to the settings, make sure it's going to cut through, you have the right settings, and that's sometimes the most difficult thing about the Glowforge. Yeah, but once you do that, you hit it says time for magic, and you hit the blinking button, and then the laser just traces the vectors out and cuts them as is, so it's pretty accurate.
Can you open and close the box?
Absolutely. So, you know, here's once it all goes together.
Instead of having like a cube, the living hinge gives you that
so I got a nice little
flexible
treasure
That's
chest
amazing.
looking.
I've seen people do the living hinge also with acrylic. You can do that with a solid piece of
That's my next
That's your next
go-to. Yeah.
Do you think of the box or the chest? Is that like a finished product now, or do you have something you want to do to tweak it, make it?
I think
that's
I think that's the curse of all makers. Is once you get a project that's semi-successful, you start thinking about how you can iterate, improve, redesign, add something else to it. So this is essentially just like a blank canvas for me. I'm thinking of designs I want to put on. I want to go back and 3D print like feet or corners. If you've seen old chests, or they're bound in metal or something. I'm thinking like a treasure chest in like a role-playing game or something.
Like the claw.
Yeah.
The bathtubs.
Exactly. So I'd want to design a piece that would fit on the corners here and kind of spruce it up a bit. And I thought of other different things I could do to make this slightly fancier. But that's just like the reasons I did this is I'm starting to set up my own web store. I want to sell things, and I don't want to sell things that I've cribbed from other places or remixed or copied.
It sounds like a lot of effort to design those things yourself. You did it.
I guess part of the reason is I have kids and they think these are the coolest things. So I get rad dad points when I come home, but I can also make a little extra money. I teach 3D printing part-time at after-school programs and summer camps, and this is something I do in my spare time to basically keep me in filament and laser cutting materials, right? So the projects end up paying for itself, but that way I'm not a burden on the household. I'm bringing stuff in. So.
What's next project in the works?
So I think the next project is going to be getting the feed on there. I want to get the website up, but as far as designing, I got a hybrid 3D printed laser cut project for a friend of mine who has a D&D group, surprise, surprise, with a bunch of people up north where we're from, and he wanted coasters, and their dice go everywhere. So he came to me with a problem, and I designed like 3D printed coasters with the built-in dice tray.
Mm-hmm. And but did this makerspace, Decatur Makers, somehow support you? Or being here, being part of the state?
Oh, I mean,
with this project?
I never would have even had or I might have come up with the idea for this, but I never would have thought it was possible unless I hadn't been here, lurking, seeing what people were doing, and that's what's really cool about Decatur Makers is you can pop in and see all the projects and you get inspired, or oh my god, I never thought of that, and then that sparks some other idea you have, and it's just this great collision of like minds and creativity and know-how. And just when they're so welcoming, and everybody's been so nice, and Herm and Kevin are just like the bright spot of my day when I run into them here, and they're so helpful, and I love coming in and seeing what everybody's doing, and that really inspires. I love coming here and getting input and inspiration. So.
I appreciate your patience with being our inaugural guinea pig interview, but and just. I know that some other people might want to ask questions of you or contact you about some of the other stuff. You said you get a website going. Mm-hmm. So if people wanted to contact you, do you have a website or an email?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me at z3dforge@gmail.com. You can see my work on Instagram at z3dforge. I mentioned that earlier. Can't plug yourself enough. And I've also got it on Twitter and Facebook. We're going to end up with that.
Thanks, Amy, for being here. We'll definitely circle back around and get some of your 3D printing stuff on. All right. Good night, makers.